Danny Cole had seen a lot of strange things in his 6 years hauling cargo across the galaxy. He had seen moons made of ice that sang when the solar wind hit them. He had seen creatures that lived in the vacuum of space, drifting between stars like jellyfish in a dark ocean. He had seen markets where they sold memories in little glass bottles and time in small metal boxes. But he had never seen anything quite like the Corvan station. The station hung in neutral space like a small metal planet. Ships of every shape and size moved around it like bees around a hive. Thousands of species came here to trade, to talk, and to watch the fights. The fights were the real reason most people came. The arena they called the Crucible was famous across 100 star systems. Danny did not care about the fights. He cared about getting paid. "There it is," Katie Marshall said from the pilot's seat beside him. She pointed at the station growing larger in the viewport. "Corvan Station, home of bad deals and worse food." Danny smiled a little. Katie had been his co-pilot and friend for 4 years now. She was a small woman with short dark hair and a sharp tongue. She did not trust aliens, did not trust other humans much either, and definitely did not trust anyone who owed them money. Right now, someone on that station owed them a lot of money. "Miko's better have our credits," Katie said. 3 months we've been waiting. 3 months of eating protein paste and dodging fuel bills. "He'll pay," Danny said, though he was not sure he believed it. Their ship, a beat-up freighter called the Dusty Runner, had seen better days. The hull was patched in 6 places. The engines made a sound that Danny pretended not to hear. They needed this payment. Without it, they would be stuck drifting between stations, looking for work that paid less and less each year. They docked at the station and made their way through the crowded corridors. The air smelled like metal and spices and things Danny could not name. Aliens of every kind walked past them. Some were tall and thin like walking sticks. Some were short and round like barrels with legs. Some had too many eyes. Some had no eyes at all. Humans were still new to the galaxy. Only 50 years ago, they had made first contact. In the grand scale of things, that was nothing. Some of these species had been traveling between stars when humans were still living in caves. They looked at Danny and Katie the way a person might look at a child who had wandered into an adult party. They found Mekos in a small trading office near the lower docks. He was a Valurian, which meant he looked like a tall gray bird with 4 arms and a long neck. His feathers were matted and dirty. His office was cluttered with boxes and screens showing numbers that made no sense to Danny. "My friends," Miko said when he saw them. His voice was high and nervous. "How wonderful to see you." "Our money, Mekos," Katie said. She did not bother with greetings. Mikos made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been a cough. "Yes, about that. There have been some complications." "Complications," Danny repeated. "The shipment you brought me, the rare minerals from the outer colonies, there were some issues with the buyers. They did not pay what they promised. I am in a difficult position." Katie stepped forward. "That sounds like your problem, not ours. I understand your frustration," Miko said quickly. "And I want to make things right. I have something that might interest you. Something valuable." He reached into a drawer and pulled out 2 small cards. They were black with gold writing that Danny could not read. "Tickets," Miko said, "to the Crucible, tonight's fight. The main event." Katie laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "You're joking. We came for credits, and you're giving us tickets to a stupid fight?" "Not just any fight," Miko said. "Vithak's the Immovable, the greatest champion the Crucible has ever seen. These tickets are worth more than what I owe you. Trust me." Danny took one of the tickets and looked at it. "Who was Vithak's?" Miko stared at him like he had asked what the sun was. "You do not know? He is a Drekken warrior, 9 feet tall, covered in armor that grows from his own body. He has fought 312 matches in the Crucible. He has never lost. More than that, no opponent has ever landed a single blow on him. Not one in 47 cycles. Sounds boring, Katie said, watching someone win over and over. You do not understand, Miko said. It is not just that he wins, it is how he wins. He is untouchable. Fighters come from across the galaxy to try to be the first to strike him. Warriors, soldiers, champions of their own worlds. They all fail. They say he cannot be hit. They say he is beyond physical combat. Danny said nothing. He was thinking. Take the tickets, Miko said. Go to the fight. If you still want credits after, we can talk. But I promise you, this is worth more than money. Katie opened her mouth to argue, but Danny spoke first. Fine, we'll take them. Katie looked at him like he had lost his mind. Danny just shrugged. They were stuck on the station anyway. Might as well see what all the fuss was about. That night, they took their seats in the Crucible. The arena was massive, a great bowl carved into the heart of the station. Thousands of aliens filled the stands, making sounds Danny could not describe. The air was thick with excitement and something else. Something almost like fear. 3 fights happened before the main event. Danny watched without much interest. 2 large aliens wrestling. A quick duel with energy blades. A strange match where the fighters seemed to be attacking each other with sound. Then the lights changed. The crowd went quiet. A deep voice announced the main event in 12 different languages. Vorthax entered the arena. Danny understood immediately why people feared him. The Draken was enormous, easily 9 feet tall and almost as wide. His body was covered in scales that looked like dark metal. His eyes glowed red in the dim light. He moved like a predator, slow and confident, knowing that nothing in the arena could hurt him. 3 challengers faced him that night. The first was a warrior from a species Danny did not recognize, covered in spines and muscle. The fight lasted 8 seconds. Vorthax moved like water, dodging every attack, then struck once. The warrior fell and did not get up. The second challenger was faster, some kind of insect creature with 6 arms. It attacked from every angle. Vorthax did not even seem to try. He simply was not where the attacks landed. Then he grabbed 2 of the arms and twisted. The creature screamed and yielded. The third was the bravest. A veteran fighter, the announcer said, who had won 100 matches of his own. He lasted almost 2 minutes, but the result was the same. Not once did he touch Vorthax. Not once did the champion seem worried. The crowd cheered. They loved him. They worshipped him. Danny watched in silence. Katie was saying something beside him, but he did not hear her. He was watching how Vorthax moved, how he positioned his feet, how he held his arms, how his eyes tracked his opponents. He saw something the aliens did not see. Vorthax was good. Maybe the best Danny had ever seen, but he had a weakness. He had never fought anyone who attacked first. Every opponent circled, waited, tested. They were afraid. And Vorthax used that fear like a weapon. Danny wondered what would happen if someone was not afraid, if someone did not wait, if someone simply attacked before Vorthax expected it. He kept that thought to himself. It was just a thought, after all, nothing more, but he could not stop thinking it. After the fights ended, Danny and Katie found themselves in a place they did not expect to be. A diplomatic reception on the upper levels of the station, where the wealthy and powerful gathered to drink strange liquids and talk about things that did not matter. It was Katie's fault, in a way. A station official had noticed them in the crowd. 2 humans sitting among thousands of aliens. Humans were still rare enough to be interesting. The official, a tall being made of what looked like living stone, had invited them to the reception as guests. Free food and drink, he said. A chance to meet important people. Katie had agreed before Danny could refuse. Free food was free food, she said. They had not eaten anything good in weeks. So now they stood in a room made of glass and light, surrounded by aliens who looked at them like they were animals in a zoo. Servers floated past, carrying trays of food that Danny could not identify. Some of it smelled good. Some of it smelled like it might be alive. This was a mistake, Danny said quietly. The food is free, Katie reminded him. She was eating something purple that crunched when she bit into it. Just smile and nod. We'll leave soon. A voice interrupted them. You are the humans, yes? The ones from the freight vessel? Danny turned. The speaker was an alien unlike any he had seen before. She was tall and elegant, with skin that shifted colors like oil on water. Her eyes were large and dark, and seemed to see everything at once. She wore robes that marked her as someone important, though Danny did not know what the symbols meant. I am Ambassador Yellen, she said. I represent the Corvine Council on matters of interspecies relations. Humans interest me greatly. We're just cargo haulers, Danny said. Nothing interesting about us. I disagree, Yellen said. She smiled, or at least made an expression that might have been a smile. Your species is new to the galaxy, yet you spread quickly. You adapt. You survive in places where others fail. This is interesting. Katie shifted nervously. She did not like attention from officials. It usually meant trouble. I saw you at the Crucible tonight, Yellen continued. You watched Verthax closely. What did you think of him? Danny considered the question. Most people would say something polite and empty. Most people would not want to offend a powerful ambassador by criticizing her station's greatest champion. Danny was tired. He had not eaten well in weeks. He had not slept well in months. He did not have the energy to lie. He's good, Danny said. Maybe the best I've ever seen. But he's never been tested. Not really. The room seemed to grow quieter. Yellen's expression did not change, but something shifted in her eyes. Never been tested, she repeated. 312 victories. No one has touched him. And you say he has not been tested? That's exactly what I mean, Danny said. Every fighter who faces him is already beaten before the match starts. They're afraid of him. They circle and wait and hope for an opening that never comes. Verthax doesn't have to be good. He just has to be patient. And you think you could do better? The voice was new, harsh, and mocking. Danny turned to see another alien approaching. This one was shorter, rounder, with skin like wet leather and small black eyes that held no warmth. He wore expensive clothes covered in gold thread. Grax, Ambassador Yellen said, the champion's handler. This is Danny Cole, a human from the freight vessel Dusty Runner. Grex made a sound that might have been a laugh. A human, a cargo hauler, criticizing the greatest warrior in the sector. He looked at Danny with open disgust. Your species never ceases to amaze me. You are small, weak, fragile. Your bones break like dry sticks. Your skin tears like paper. You have no claws, no armor, no venom. And yet you speak as if you matter. Katie stepped forward, her hands curled into fists. Listen here, you little... Danny put a hand on her arm. It's fine, Katie. It's not fine, she hissed. This guy is right, Danny said quietly. We are fragile. Our bones do break. But that doesn't mean what he thinks it means. Grex heard him and laughed again, louder this time. Others in the room were watching now. The conversation had become entertainment. Please, Grex said, spreading his arms wide. Tell me what it means. Educate us, little human. Explain how your weakness is actually strength. Danny said nothing. There was no point in explaining. People like Grex did not listen. They only waited for their turn to speak. The silence stretched. Grex's smile faded slightly. He had expected an argument, a display of human anger that he could mock. Danny's calm was not what he wanted. "Very well," Greg said. "Since you think our champion is so untested, perhaps you would like to test him yourself. I hereby issue a public challenge. Any human present may face Vortex in the Crucible tomorrow. The prize is 10,000 credits and the clearance of any debts on this station." The room went completely silent. 10,000 credits was more money than Danny had seen in his entire career. The debt clearance meant Mikos would have to pay what he owed or face the consequences, but facing Rithax meant almost certain death. "I don't want to fight your champion," Danny said. "Of course you don't," Greg said, "because you know you would lose. Because for all your words, you are nothing but talk. Your species is nothing but talk." Katie grabbed Danny's arm. "Don't listen to him. He's baiting you. She is wise. You're female," Greg said. "Listen to her. Walk away. Run back to your little ship and fly away from here. But know this." His voice hardened. "Your vessel has been flagged for inspection. Suspicion of smuggling. The inspection could take weeks, months, perhaps longer. Unless, of course, you accept my challenge." Danny understood then. This was not about the fight. This was about pride. Grex had seen a human question his champion in front of important people. He could not allow that to stand. Either Danny fought and died, proving humans were weak, or Danny ran and Grex destroyed them anyway. There was no good choice. There never was, for people like them. Danny looked at Katie. She shook her head slowly, her eyes filled with fear. She knew him too well. She knew what he was thinking. "Don't," she whispered. "Please, Danny, don't." He thought about the dusty runner sitting in the dock. Their home for 4 years. Everything they owned was on that ship. Without it, they had nothing. They were nothing. He thought about Verthax in the arena, moving like water, untouchable and arrogant. He thought about the weakness he had seen. The assumption that opponents would always be afraid. "I'll do it," Danny said. The room erupted in noise. Aliens shouted and laughed and talked over each other. Grex's face split into a wide, ugly smile. "Excellent," he said. "The human accepts. Tomorrow evening, the Crucible. The whole station will watch you die." He walked away, already talking to others, already spreading the news. Ambassador Yellen lingered for a moment, studying Danny with those dark, bottomless eyes. "You are either very brave or very foolish," she said. "Probably both," Danny admitted. "I hope you survive," Yellen said. "Your species is more interesting than most." Then she, too, walked away. Katie stood beside him, silent for a long moment. Then she punched him in the arm, hard. "You idiot," she said. "You absolute idiot. What were you thinking?" "I was thinking about the ship," Danny said. "About our home. About having no other choice. There's always another choice. We could have run, found another station, started over. With what money? What fuel? Katie, we have nothing. At least this way there's a chance." "A chance?" Her voice cracked. "Danny, that thing is going to kill you. You saw what he did to those fighters. You're not a warrior. You're a cargo hauler from Nebraska who did some boxing in college." "I know what I am," Danny said. "And I know what I saw tonight. What did you see?" Danny turned to face her. His eyes were calm, but something burned behind them. Something she had never seen before. "I saw a fighter who has never been surprised. Who has never faced someone willing to die to hit him. Who has never fought a human." Katie stared at him. "That's your plan? Surprise him? That's part of it. And the rest?" Danny smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "The rest is just refusing to lose." That night, alone in his small cabin on the dusty runner, Danny pulled up every recording he could find of Verthax's fights. He watched them over and over, studying every movement, every pattern, every small habit the champion did not even know he had. Outside, the station hummed with excitement. Word had spread. A human was going to fight the unbeatable Verthax. Everyone expected a slaughter. Danny kept watching, kept studying, kept looking for the weakness he knew was there. He found it just before dawn. A tiny thing. A moment so small that no one else had noticed it. When Verthax entered the arena, he always raised his arms to the crowd. Always showed off for his fans. And for that one moment, just 2 or 3 seconds, he did not look at his opponent at all. That was all Danny needed. The morning came too fast. Danny had not slept. He had spent the whole night watching recordings, planning, preparing. Now sunlight, or what passed for sunlight on the station, crept through the viewport of his cabin. Katie found him in the cargo hold, wrapping cloth around his hands. It was an old habit from his boxing days. The cloth protected his knuckles, kept his fist tight, gave him something to focus on while his mind raced. "You're really doing this," she said. It was not a question. "I'm really doing this." She sat down across from him, her face tired and worried. "Tell me you have a plan, a real plan. Not just hit him before he hits me." Danny smiled slightly. "That is the plan, mostly." Danny. He stopped rapping and looked at her. She was trying hard not to cry. In 4 years of working together, he had never seen her cry. She was tougher than most people he had ever met. Seeing her like this hurt more than he expected. "Listen to me," he said. "I've watched every one of his fights, every single one. And I noticed something that no one else sees." "What?" "Every opponent he faces does the same thing. They start cautious. They circle. They test. They wait for an opening that never comes. And while they wait, Verthax reads them. He learns how they move, how they think. By the time they attack, he already knows what they're going to do." Katie frowned. "So what do you do differently?" "I don't wait. I don't circle. I don't give him time to read me." Danny finished wrapping his right hand and started on his left. "When that signal sounds, I'm going to attack like my life depends on it." "Because it does." "But he's huge. He's covered in armor. How are you even going to hurt him? Every suit of armor has gaps. Every body has weak points. The throat, the joints, the places where the scales don't quite meet." Danny tapped his temple. "I've memorized every inch of him. I know exactly where to hit." Katie shook her head slowly. "And what happens when he hits back?" Danny did not answer. That was the part of the plan he had not figured out. He was fast, but Verthax was faster than he looked. He was skilled, but Verthax had been fighting for longer than Danny had been alive. If it came down to a real fight, a long fight, Danny knew his chances were not good. But he had to try. There was no other choice. A knock on the cargo hold door interrupted them. Danny stood, expecting station security or maybe Grex coming to gloat. Instead, it was a human. A man in a white coat with tired eyes and gray hair. "Danny Cole?" the man asked. "I'm Dr. Ryan Peters, the station's human medical officer." "I didn't know the station had a human medical officer," Danny said. "There aren't many of us out here. We look out for each other when we can." Dr. Peters stepped inside, looking around the cargo hold. "I heard about your fight. I came to talk you out of it." Katie laughed, but it was bitter. "Good luck with that. Listen to me, Danny." Dr. Peters moved closer, his voice urgent. "I've treated what's left of Verthax's opponents. The ones who survived, anyway. Broken bones, crushed organs, brain damage. That creature is not like us. He's not like anything we've evolved to fight. Our bodies are not built to take the kind of punishment he delivers." "I know," Danny said. "Then why?" Dr. Peters asked. "Why throw your life away?" "Because the alternative is losing everything anyway. At least this way, I go down fighting. Dr. Peters stared at him for a long moment. Then he sighed and pulled something from his coat pocket. A small metal case. Pain blockers, he said. Military grade. I shouldn't be giving you these, but I can't stop you from fighting. At least I can help you last longer. Danny took the case. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just try not to die. Doctor. Peters turned and walked out without looking back. Katie watched him go, then turned to Danny. Did you know him? Never met him before. He risked his career coming here. Giving you those drugs. Danny nodded. That's what humans do. We look out for each other. Even when it doesn't make sense. The hours passed slowly. Danny tried to rest, but sleep would not come. He ate a small meal, knowing he would need the energy, but not wanting to fight on a full stomach. He stretched, warmed up, went through the movements he had practiced 1,000 times in gyms back on Earth. When evening came, Katie walked with him to the Crucible. The station had transformed. Word of the fight had spread everywhere. Every screen showed Danny's face next to Verthax. Aliens crowded the corridors, pointing and talking. Some laughed at the small human who thought he could challenge the champion. Others watched with something like curiosity. A few, a very few, watched with something like hope. The arena was packed. Every seat filled, every standing space crowded. The noise was overwhelming. Thousands of voices speaking in hundreds of languages, all waiting to see what would happen next. Danny stood at the entrance to the arena floor, looking out at the vast space. The sand beneath his feet was dark with old stains. How much blood had been spilled here? How many fighters had walked through this same entrance and never walked out? Katie gripped his arm. Danny, look at me. He turned. You come back, she said. You hear me? You come back. I don't care if you win or lose. You come back. He hugged her then, quickly and tightly. She hugged him back. I'll try, he said. Then he walked out onto the arena floor. The crowd erupted. Not in cheers, not exactly, but in noise. Surprise, amusement, disbelief. The human looked so small in the vast arena. He wore simple clothes, no armor, no weapons. His hands were wrapped in cloth. His feet were bare. He looked like a man walking to his execution. The announcer's voice boomed across the arena, speaking in language after language. Danny caught some of it. They called him Danny Cole, human, challenger. They listed his species, his height, his weight. They mentioned that humans had only been spacefaring for 50 years. They said he was a cargo hauler with no combat record. The crowd laughed at that. A cargo hauler challenging the greatest warrior in the sector. Then the announcer introduced Verthax. The champion entered from the opposite side of the arena. And Danny understood for the first time just how different seeing him up close would be. On the screens, Verthax had looked big. In person, he was enormous. 9 feet of muscle and armor, scales that glinted like dark metal, eyes that glowed red in the arena lights. He walked slowly, savoring the attention, raising his arms to the crowd. They loved him. They screamed his name. They stomped their feet and beat their limbs together in appreciation. Verthax reached the center of the arena and finally looked at Danny, his lips pulled back from teeth that could crush bone. It might have been a smile. It might have been a threat. It was probably both. Little human, he said. His voice was deep like thunder. You should not be here. Danny said nothing. I will try to make this quick, Verthax continued. Out of respect for your courage, if nothing else. But understand that you will lose. Everyone loses. You are simply next. Danny still said nothing. He was watching, waiting, controlling his breathing, keeping his heart rate steady. The referee, a mechanical being that floated above the arena floor, explained the rules in 12 languages. First to yield or fall unconscious loses. No weapons. No killing strikes unless both parties agree. If a fighter cannot continue, the match ends. Simple rules. Clear rules. Rules that meant nothing if Verthax decided to ignore them. The referee floated higher out of the way. The arena fell silent. Thousands of beings held their breath. The signal sounded. Verthax raised his arms to the crowd one final time. A habit born from hundreds of victories. He always did this. He always gave his fans one last moment of showmanship before crushing his opponent. Danny exploded forward. He had been waiting for this moment. He had trained for it. He had visualized it 1,000 times during the sleepless night. His legs drove him across the sand like a bullet from a gun. Verthax was still looking at the crowd when Danny reached him. The first punch hit the champion's throat, right in the gap between his chest scales and his jaw plate. Danny put everything he had into it, all his weight, all his speed, all his desperation. Verthax's eyes went wide. The second punch came before the first had finished landing. A left hook to the side of the champion's head, snapping it sideways. The scales there were thinner. The impact echoed across the silent arena. Third punch. A body shot to the soft tissue beneath the ribs. Verthax grunted, a sound of genuine pain. Fourth punch. An uppercut as the champion's head dropped from the body blow. Danny's fist connected with the underside of Verthax's jaw. Fifth punch. A devastating overhand right that sent the greatest warrior in the sector stumbling backward. 5 punches in less than 3 seconds. The arena was completely silent. No one moved. No one breathed. No one could process what they had just seen. Verthax touched his face. His claw came away wet with blood, his own blood. He stared at it in disbelief. In 47 cycles and 312 fights, no one had ever made him bleed. Danny stood in the center of the arena, his fists raised, his chest heaving. His knuckles were already bruised from hitting scales. His hands were already starting to swell. But he was still standing, and Verthax was bleeding. Then the champion roared, and the real fight began. The roar that came from Verthax was unlike anything Danny had ever heard. It was not just loud. It was ancient. It came from somewhere deep in the Drekken's chest. A sound of rage and shock and wounded pride that had been building for 47 cycles without release. For a moment, the whole arena seemed to shake. Then Verthax charged. Danny had known this was coming. He had prepared for it. But nothing could truly prepare a person for 9 feet of armored fury coming at them like a freight train. He moved. The champion's first swing would have taken Danny's head off if it had connected. Instead, it passed through empty air as Danny ducked and rolled to the side. Sand sprayed up from where Verthax's fist hit the ground, leaving a small crater. Danny did not have time to think. He could only react. He had learned to box in a small gym in Lincoln, Nebraska, where the ceiling leaked when it rained and the heating never worked in winter. His coach had been a tired old man named Eddie, who had never made it big but knew more about fighting than anyone Danny had ever met. "Boxing isn't about hitting hard," Eddie used to say. "It's about not getting hit. Move your feet. Control the distance. Make them miss, make them pay." Danny heard those words now, echoing in his head as he danced away from another devastating blow. Verthax was fast. Faster than something that big had any right to be. His arms swept through the air in wide arcs that could crush bone and tear muscle. His tail whipped behind him, a weapon Danny had not even considered, almost catching him across the legs. But Danny was faster. Barely. He ducked under a swing and darted in, landing 2 quick punches to Verthax's side before retreating. The champion barely seemed to notice. The scales there were thicker than Danny had hoped. "Stop running," Verthax bellowed. "Face me like a warrior." Danny did not answer. He could not afford to waste breath on words. He circled left, then right, keeping the champion turning, never letting him set his feet properly. The crowd was no longer silent. They were screaming now, though Danny could not tell if they wanted him to win or die. Maybe both. Maybe neither. Maybe they just wanted to see something they had never seen before. They were certainly getting that 3 minutes into the fight. Danny landed another combination. A jab to the throat, a hook to the jaw, a quick body shot before dancing away. Each punch hurt his hands more than the last. The cloth wrapping was already stained with his own blood where his knuckles had split against the scales. Verthax was bleeding from several small cuts now. Nothing serious. Nothing that would stop him. But the blood was there, visible on his dark scales, proof that he could be touched. "You fight like a coward," Verthax growled. "Standing still is fighting. Running is nothing." Danny used his next breath to speak. "Where I come from, we call it boxing." He saw the anger flash in Verthax's red eyes. Good. Angry fighters made mistakes. They swung too hard, overcommitted, left openings they would normally protect. But Verthax was not just any fighter. He was a champion for a reason. Even angry, even bleeding, he was adjusting, learning, starting to predict Danny's movements. 5 minutes in, Verthax finally caught him. The tail came from nowhere. Danny had been watching the arms, watching the legs, and he forgot about the tail. It swept low across the sand and hit his ankles like a steel bar. Danny went down hard. He rolled immediately, instinct saving him as Verthax's foot stomped down where his chest had been a moment before. The impact shook the ground. Danny scrambled to his feet, but he was not fast enough to dodge the backhand that followed. The blow hit him in the shoulder and sent him flying. He hit the sand and rolled, pain exploding through his left side. Something cracked. Ribs, probably. Maybe his collarbone. He could not tell. Everything hurt too much to identify individual injuries. The crowd roared with excitement. This was what they had come to see. The human had been fun for a while, but now the champion would end it. Verthax walked toward him slowly, savoring the moment. "You are tougher than I expected, human. You lasted longer than most. But it is over now." Danny pushed himself up. His left arm would not work properly. Every breath sent fire through his chest. His vision blurred, then cleared, then blurred again. He got to his feet anyway. The crowd went quiet again. Even Verthax paused, surprise flickering across his alien features. "You should stay down," the champion said. "Can't do that," Danny managed. Blood dripped from a cut above his eye. "Wouldn't be much of a fight if I did." 8 minutes. Danny survived for 8 more minutes. Thought he could not attack any more. His left arm hung useless at his side. His ribs screamed with every movement. He could barely see through the blood in his eyes, but he could still move, still dodge, still make Verthax miss. The champion grew frustrated. Every swing that should have ended the fight hit only air. Every time he closed the distance, Danny slipped away. The human was broken, bleeding, clearly dying on his feet, yet he would not stay still long enough to be killed. "Stop moving," Verthax screamed. "Fight me." Danny could not speak anymore. He needed all his breath just to stay conscious. But somewhere in the pain and exhaustion, a small spark of satisfaction glowed. The great undefeated champion was losing his temper. The being no one had ever touched was covered in his own blood. Whatever happened next, Danny had already won something. 10 minutes. The longest fight Verthax had ever had. The crowd was chanting now. Danny could not understand the words, but the tone was different than before. There was respect in those voices. Wonder. They were watching something historic, and they knew it. Then Verthax connected again. The punch hit Danny in the chest, and he felt things break inside. He flew backward, hit the arena wall, and slid down into the sand. His vision went dark. This is it, he thought. This is where I die. But death did not come. Instead, Danny heard something he had never expected to hear. Cheering. Louder than anything before. An explosion of sound that filled the entire arena. He forced his eyes open. His body would not move, but he could see. Verthax stood in the center of the arena, breathing hard. The champion was covered in wounds. Small cuts and bruises marked his scales from head to tail. His right eye was swollen where one of Danny's punches had landed perfectly. He looked like someone who had actually been in a fight. The crowd was on their feet, screaming and cheering and stomping. Not for Verthax. For Danny. For the small broken human who had done what no one thought possible. Verthax walked toward Danny slowly. His face was unreadable. Danny tried to raise his fists, tried to stand, tried to do anything, but his body simply would not obey anymore. The champion stopped in front of him. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Verthax reached down and lifted Danny to his feet. The champion held him there, supporting his weight, keeping him standing. "You should yield," Verthax said quietly. "There is no shame in it. You have proven yourself." Danny looked at the champion through blood-filled eyes. His voice came out as a whisper. "My people, we don't yield." Verthax stared at him. Something changed in those red eyes. Something that might have been respect. "Then we will continue," the champion said. "Until one of us cannot." He stepped back and raised his fists again. Danny somehow raised his one working arm. They faced each other across 2 feet of blood-stained sand. The giant and the broken man, the legend and the cargo hauler from Nebraska. The crowd held its breath. 12 minutes. That was how long the fight had lasted when Verthax finally spoke the word no one had ever heard him say. Enough. The champion lowered his fists. Danny blinked, not understanding. "I yield," Verthax said, loud enough for the whole arena to hear. The silence was complete. No one could process what had just happened. "You yield?" Danny managed. "I can barely stand." "Exactly." Verthax looked at him with those strained red eyes. "I have hit you a dozen times. Broken your bones. Made you bleed. And yet you stand. You refuse to fall. In all my cycles of fighting, I have never seen anything like this." He paused. "You have defeated me, human. Not with strength, but with will." Danny's legs finally gave out. He collapsed into the sand, unconscious before he hit the ground. The last thing he heard was the roar of the crowd, calling his name like thunder. Danny woke up in a bed that was not his own. The ceiling above him was white and smooth. Strange machines hummed quietly nearby. The air smelled like antiseptic and something else, something alien he could not identify. "You're awake." Katie's voice came from somewhere to his left. "Thank God, you're awake." He turned his head slowly. The movement sent pain through his neck and shoulders, but it was a dull pain, distant, like it belonged to someone else. Whatever drugs they had given him were strong. Katie sat in a chair beside his bed. Her eyes were red from crying, though she would probably deny it later. She looked like she had not slept in days. "How long?" Danny asked. His voice sounded strange to his own ears, rough and weak. 3 days. "You've been out for 3 days." She leaned forward and took his hand. Her fingers trembled slightly. "They didn't know if you would wake up. Your injuries were... They said humans aren't supposed to survive what happened to you." Danny tried to remember. The fight. Verthax. The blood and the pain and the roar of the crowd. It all felt like a dream now, something that had happened to someone else. "Did I win?" he asked. Katie laughed, a sound somewhere between relief and disbelief. "You won. Somehow, you actually won." Verthax yielded. The whole station saw it. Danny closed his eyes. He had won. He could barely believe it. "The doctors say you'll recover," Katie continued. Broken ribs, fractured collarbone, ruptured spleen, internal bleeding, concussion, and about 50 other things I couldn't pronounce. But you'll live. You'll walk again. Eventually. Good, Danny said. I like walking. The door opened and Dr. Ryan Peters walked in, the same tired-eyed human who had given Danny the pain blockers before the fight. He checked the machines, looked at some readings Danny did not understand, and nodded to himself. You're healing faster than expected, Dr. Peters said. I don't know if it's the medications or just pure stubbornness. Probably the stubbornness, Katie said. Probably. Dr. Peters smiled slightly. You've had visitors, by the way. Half the station wants to meet you. I've been turning them away, but there are few who won't take no for an answer. Like who? The door opened again. Answering his question, Ambassador Yellen entered first, her color-shifting skin moving through shades of blue and silver. Behind her came Grex, the champion's handler, looking smaller and more nervous than Danny remembered. And behind them both, ducking to fit through the doorway, came VOR to HAX himself. Danny's heart beat faster. He tried to sit up, but his body refused to cooperate. Peace, little human, Rithak said. His voice was different now, softer somehow. I did not come to fight. I came to talk. Katie positioned herself between Danny's bed and the Drekken. Her fists clenched despite how useless such a gesture would be against someone like Rithak's. It's okay, Katie, Danny said. Let him speak. Rithak stepped closer. In the small hospital room, he seemed even more massive than he had in the arena. His scales still bore the marks of their fight, small scars that would probably never fully heal. Among my people, Rithak began, there is a tradition. When a warrior draws blood from another in fair combat, they become equals, brothers in battle. For 47 cycles, no one has earned this honor from me. He paused, looking at Danny with those strained red eyes. Until you. He reached into a pouch at his belt and withdrew something small and metallic. It was a pendant, carved in the shape of 2 crossed claws, hanging from a chain made of some dark material Danny did not recognize. This is the mark of the worthy, Rithak said. It signifies that you are my equal in battle, that your blood and mine have mixed in honest combat, that you have earned the respect of the Drekken people. He placed the pendant on Danny's bed, within reach of his one working arm. You fought without armor, without weapons, without anything except your own body and will. You faced certain death and did not run. In all my cycles, I have never seen such courage. Rithak made a strange gesture with his claws, something that might have been a salute. You have my respect, Danny Cole of Earth. May your hunts always be successful, and your enemies always underestimate you. Danny did not know what to say. He picked up the pendant with trembling fingers. It was heavier than it looked, warm to the touch. Thank you, he managed. It seemed inadequate, but it was all he had. Rithak nodded once, then turned and left without another word. Ambassador Yellen stepped forward next. The council has been discussing your fight for 3 days. It has caused quite a stir among our members. I hope I didn't cause any problems, Danny said. Problems? Yellen smiled, or made the expression that served as her smile. You have done something remarkable, Danny Cole. You have shown the galaxy that humans are not to be underestimated. Your species is young, yes. Fragile, perhaps. But you possess something that many older species have lost. What's that? The refusal to accept defeat. Yellen's skin shifted to a warm golden color. This is valuable. More valuable than you know. The Council has decided to offer humanity a seat at several important trade negotiations. Your courage has opened doors that might otherwise have remained closed for decades. Danny did not know how to respond to that. He had fought for his ship, his home, his survival. He had not thought about politics or trade or the fate of his species. Katie cleared her throat. Speaking of doors opening, what about our ship? And the money we were promised? Grex stepped forward, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. His expensive clothes were rumpled, his eyes nervous. The inspection on your vessel has been cancelled, he said quickly, and the prize money has been transferred to your accounts. All 10,000 credits, plus the debt owed by the traitor Makos. It has all been handled. How generous, Katie said, her voice sharp with sarcasm. Grex flinched. I may have misjudged your species. I apologize for my words before the fight. They were inaccurate. They were cruel, Danny said. And arrogant. And wrong. Yes. Grex could not meet his eyes. They were all of those things. I hope you can forgive me. Danny considered the small, nervous alien in front of him. He thought about the insults, the threats, the way Grex had tried to humiliate him in front of everyone. He thought about how easy it would be to hold on to that anger, to make Grex pay for his cruelty. But what would be the point? Danny had already won. Grex had already lost. Adding more punishment would not change anything. I forgive you, Danny said. Just don't make the same mistake again. With me or anyone else. Grex nodded rapidly and practically ran from the room. Ambassador Yellen lingered a moment longer. You are an unusual human, Danny Cole. Most species would have demanded revenge. You offered mercy instead. Where I come from, we have a saying, Danny said. The best revenge is living well. I plan to do a lot of living. Yellen made a sound that might have been a laugh. I hope our paths cross again. In better circumstances. Then she, too, was gone. Katie sat down heavily in her chair, letting out a long breath. Well, that was something. Yeah, 10,000 credits. Our debts cleared. The respect of an entire warrior species. She shook her head slowly. Not bad for a cargo hauler from Nebraska. Danny smiled, though it hurt his face to do it. Just doing what I had to do. Idiot. But she was smiling too, tears running down her cheeks. You brave, stupid, stubborn idiot. Over the next few weeks, Danny recovered. The Kovan station's medical technology was advanced, and what would have taken months to heal on Earth took only weeks here. His ribs mended. His shoulder healed. The internal damage was repaired piece by piece. During that time, visitors came constantly. Aliens from species Danny had never heard of wanted to meet the human who had struck Verthax. Some wanted to learn how he had done it. Others wanted to hire him as a bodyguard or a fighter. A few simply wanted to see the strange creature who had done what everyone said was impossible. Danny turned them all down. He was not a fighter. He was not a warrior. He was a cargo hauler who had gotten into one fight and been lucky enough to survive. When he was finally well enough to walk, he and Katie returned to the Dusty Runner. Their ship was where they had left it, undamaged. Waiting for them, they sat in the cockpit together, looking out at the stars. So what now? Katie asked. We have money. We have options. We could buy a better ship. Start a real business. Maybe even retire somewhere nice. Danny thought about it. He thought about soft beds and safe planets and a life where no one tried to kill him. Then he thought about the black space between the stars. The strange worlds waiting to be discovered. The adventures that might be hiding around every corner. I think, he said slowly, I want to keep hauling cargo. Katie stared at him. After everything that happened? After you almost died? You want to go back to the same life? It's a good life. Danny smiled. Besides, someone has to show the galaxy what humans are made of. Might as well be us. Katie laughed. You really are crazy. Probably. She started the engines. The Dusty Runner hummed to life around them, old and battered but still flying. Where to first? she asked. Danny looked at the stars ahead, bright and endless and full of possibilities. Anywhere, he said. Let's see what's out there. The ship lifted off from Corvan Station and joined the flow of vessels heading into deep space. Behind them, in the crucible, a new phrase had entered the vocabulary of 100 species. Fighting like a human, they called it now. It meant attacking when everyone expected you to run. It meant